What's good, listeners? Our guest on Just Talking is Elizabeth Betsy Kim, co-founder of Gen Z Critics, seeking to amplify the voices of young film critics around the world. So how's it going, Betsy?
It's good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are so stoked to have you too. And listeners, we're going to start this right up on the top of the show because I'm sure you're all aware of how Gen Z suddenly decided millennials are no longer cool. Okay. So apparently, Gen Z like to butter their bread while millennials prefer an avocado toast. So, with that being said, Marissa, let's cue the music. All right, listeners. So I asked Betsy to compile a top 5 list of demands for millennials to leave in the past forever. So the only way for millennials and Gen Z to bridge the gap is being brutally honest with one another. So Betsy, what do you got?
I actually had a really hard time with this because I feel like a millennial a lot of the
Oh.
time.
Because
Like,
we're amazing. Like, I'm like a millennial.
well, so I remember a time when iPhones didn't exist. Like, I remember, playing my sister's like Nintendo Game Boy. I remember iTouches being a thing before iPhones were.
Right.
And so I feel like I still have that part of my childhood, which kids who are born these days don't.
Mhm.
I
Um,
remember when VHS was a thing before streaming demands,
well, there
but
you
I
go.
don't know if Gen Z knows about that.
Right. Well, I do remember going to Blockbuster and renting movies in there. That being said, I do have some opinions that I can share. They're pretty mild, but I'll share them anyway.
Okay, okay.
So I don't like avocado toast. I do think it's
Yeah. Okay, that's a fair assessment. What else you got on your list?
and I do think that skinny jeans can go because why not be comfortable?
I think we had people
Millennial.
interrupt our live stream on that one. You just hurt my feelings. My whole life is skinny jeans. What do you
What kind of
Okay, but I guess I'm taking notes from
jeans
Betsy.
do you prefer? That's kind of jeans.
Well, mom jeans, right? Like, why not be more comfortable? Like,
Waist.
I think one good thing that can come from the pandemic is killing skinny jeans forever because why not be more comfortable?
At least I'm not wearing the skinny jeans. I used to have a buddy that was so into the whole emo hard rock phase that like he wore skinny jeans to the point where he had a squirt bottle in his closet where he had to spray his jeans just to loosen them up so he can stretch them, so you can wear it like a normal human being. So
That
I think I might be with you on that one. Lose the squirt bottle and the really tight skinny jeans.
And then I would say my final thing, which I think is kind of like an olive branch, is lip gloss. I love lip gloss. I think lip gloss is in. I think lipstick can go because I think lip gloss is more comfortable. But
Ah,
I think a lot of millennials grew up watching the Spice Girls, the Cheetah Girls, Lizzie McGuire. So
right.
millennials like lip gloss too, and then it came back for Gen Z. So I would say that's like my peacekeeping sort of strategy.
Okay, so
I have a lot of lip gloss, and then my lipstick is now tinted like a lighter color
There
because
you go.
red reminds me of like Gen X a little too much. I'm like,
Mm.
I can't get
well
down
there
bright red. So
well
I'm
there you go. There is the top list of demands. But all right, Betsy, let's get right on into it because I know you are the co-founder of Gen Z Critics. And what made you start this organization?
Yeah, so I started as a high school junior. I was interning for the Boston Society of Film Critics, and I was doing a little bit of research on these regional film critic organizations that exist around the country. And I noticed that it's an aging population.
Yeah.
And knowing how much I love movies, I love writing about movies. I did kind of feel like, you know, that we needed to revitalize the profession a little bit. But I also felt that, if young people are such a coveted audience for film studios, we should at least have a say in the kinds of movies that are being made. I think the sort of death of film criticism is actually an argument and a sentiment that a lot of Gen Zers push back on with like the
Mhm.
rise of the YouTube content commentary and also Letterboxd. So
Yeah.
I understand that too.
And
But
for any of the listeners out there that are not familiar with Letterboxd, could you please explain what this new platform is? Because yeah, I mean, this got introduced when I left film college.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a website where pretty much anyone can give a review of a movie. They tend to be shorter. They can also be very funny. And then people can like your review. And that is like the top review that appears when you click on a movie within Letterboxd. It's a really cool platform.
You don't see it being a problem for movie studios out there with Letterboxd, because I know a lot of people compare it with Stacked, and I know journalism out there is being attacked for independent journalists being on there. Do you feel like they're going to have some of those same repercussions later on in the future?
I don't blame Letterboxd for sort of the death of film criticism as much as I blame, social media
Mm.
companies, and that has a lot to do with like the death of local newspapers, which is a real problem for our country. But you know what? It's a time for film critics to pivot, I think. If it requires you to learn how to use YouTube and learn how to edit and,
Yeah.
tackle this sort of visual medium, then why not? It's just another opportunity.
I think that's a great point. And I know we asked CCS contributor Alyssa Wilkinson this, but I'd like to hear a younger voice on this subject, okay? Why would Gen Z invest into working at the major studio companies when half of the movies nominated this Sunday at the Oscars are from streaming
Mhm.
services? And just to put into perspective, Netflix has 35 nominations, Amazon Prime came in second with 12 nominations in total, and Apple TV and Disney Plus are up for their very first Academy Awards. So,
Mhm.
are we starting to see a switch on where millennials and Gen Z want to work? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I would say, as someone who's been on the job market for these kinds of jobs, Netflix doesn't take interns.
Oh,
I
I
was
did
once
not
a
know
really
that.
Yeah,
No.
you go onto the website, you search interns into like the job search. Uh, it I think they clearly want someone with a certain level of experience, and college
Hmm.
and high school interns are not it. So that might be a reason that you might go to.
Maybe they just want to get away with doing non-paid, and then they figured that they're Netflix, and then they have to pay for their internship, and they're like, you know what? We'll just get somebody that's qualified.
Is there are so many. I mean, there's some great interns that come out of college stuff, and then there are some where you're like, wow, you just set us back. You don't have
Yep.
the qualifications. You don't know what you're doing. You're actually hurting our brand. And
Hmm,
I can cut 100. If you have to pay your intern anyway, I'm going to get the person who's most qualified. I'm
Yep.
actually with
yeah,
Netflix on this one.
yeah. um, but maybe you don't even need to go to a studio, not even Netflix. If you feel like you can make it on TikTok or YouTube, then why not? I also think that what was I going to say? In general, and I'm talking more about experienced professionals rather than, sort of Gen Z newbies, but I do hear a lot from people I know in the film industry that the money is in streaming. That's where it's at.
Right.
Amazon has many, many, many dollars to just waste on projects, which they don't generally waste, but they have very deep pockets.
Right.
So I think TV is where the opportunities are at, and definitely streaming has a big part in that.
Absolutely. And another very big part that the streaming services are involved in is the 2021 Academy Awards this Sunday, April 25th. And what is your opinion for the best film of the year?
Yeah, so for me, the best film is 100% Nomadland. I love that
Oh,
movie. And because I know this is coming up, I have a great pitch for millennials as well.
you have a great pitch for millennials to
I
check out this
do.
film, because
Yeah.
I know Marissa saw it. Marissa, why don't you give your inside scoop on what you thought?
I thought the cinematography was beautiful.
Hmm.
Story at my heart. Okay, I'm older, millennial, la la la. I fell asleep a couple times.
Yeah.
So a little boring. I like a little more jazz.
How is it a little boring if you fall asleep? That means it's boring, like beyond boring. Like, don't see it.
I
So,
said,
as a Gen Z, you really felt like, because I liked Mank, I liked other films that I thought were better than Mank, but then I felt like millennials aren't going to see this. I know my brother was watching it, my little bro Kelly, and he goes, I like this film. And I go, but you're not getting it the same way because you've never seen Citizen Kane. So, how can you
Mhm.
relate with this? Like, You really think maybe Nomadland is going to be the winner because maybe the Oscar voting panel is so screwed up.
Uh-huh.
The also the Korean one.
Minari.
Yeah.
Okay, there I want to see this only because they've been blowing my feet up with like their like see this movie ads, and the grandma as an actress blows my mind in everything she's done. So this is on my like my list, and that movie might win over Nomad. I'm gonna
Mm.
That's true, but like,
put it on
but
there.
but Betsy, let me throw that at you like this. I know you just said now that Nomadlands is your favorite, but is there a film that might surprise all of us that might just shock the world and win Best Picture this year?
Um, for surprise when I was looking more at best director, I do think that Thomas Vinterberg, who directed Another Round, could be sort of a dark horse.
Mm.
Did you guys watch that movie?
I did see that movie. I really,
You
really
like
did
it?
like it. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
especially when you're in the classroom scenes. Those are beautiful, and the ending was so
Yeah.
different that you don't normally see in a cinema universe. And I believe it was a Dutch film, I
The
think it
Danish
was.
film.
Danish films. Thank you for always correcting. This is why we have a wonderful film critic here that knows what's good. But was there any films out there that you felt like were snubbed by the Oscars? Because I know my listeners that tune in know that I felt that Defy Bloods from Spike Lee was one of the films completely butchered, replaced,
Mm.
and not even on the list. Do you feel like there's anything out there? I know you just said Another Round. Would that be one of them?
Another round. I think, well, the Oscars really surprised me this year with their sort of nominees. A lot of them felt less Oscar baity to me.
Mm.
Um,
Okay,
so
let me ask you this then. Have you
okay.
seen all the Oscar nomination films? And if not, why?
No, well, the short answer is time.
Time. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
No, the long answer is I'm sorry. I don't care about Citizen Kane. I've seen it so many times for film class, and I don't care about the film canon. So if it's a film that I'm told that I'm supposed to watch because it's important, then I'm already tuned out. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
if it's a fun movie, they would have described it as fun, but instead they chose to describe it as important,
And
which
you're
really,
getting Betsy, you're getting to my exact point because Bill Maher had an amazing segment on his show a couple weeks ago when he said, quote, the Academy Awards used to say, what great movies we make. Now they say, look what good people we are. I mean, will Gen Z, including millennials, dismantle awards shows such as the Oscars and the Grammys for what they are?
I think it's great that you bring up the Grammys because it is a much more relevant award show for so many Gen Zers. They actually care about the artists who are
Yeah.
nominated, but there was a whole Twitter uproar that happened when The Weeknd was snubbed for his album, which is amazing. After I was pretty mad about that too. So,
Yeah.
and he said actually that he would boycott the Grammys for future years. I don't know if he'll go through with that. I think
Mm.
maybe if he's nominated, he'll come back. But maybe, I don't know. But certainly the Grammys, even though it is more current, they have
But
their
I
own
guess the thing
problems.
is, it's like, do we really need the Oscars and the Grammys to validate what good media is?
No, we don't. But with some especially independent movies that spotlight stories that haven't been told before, it is so good for publicity that like I
Yeah.
almost think independent movies need the Oscars, which is a really weird thing to
Mm.
say,
Yeah.
but it does do wonders for people's careers who really deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like the one thing I did agree with Bill Maher during his new rule segment was he kept saying if the Hollywood movie studios want to keep their theater capacity at 15%, keep producing films like Nomadland and Minari. I mean, is that fair to say? I mean, I just saw this week, which I don't think most people know, with the big ass monsters and the big ass fight, Godzilla versus King Kong. Well, at the box office, it's nearing $400 million worldwide. I don't think any of these films could have done what Godzilla versus King Kong did. They only were becoming successful because of the streaming services. Is that
Mhm.
fair to say? Do you?
So I actually really disagreed with Bill Maher's segment. I'm glad I watched it.
Oh,
I really
okay.
wanted to talk about it. Um, I would say because this is a show for millennials, the first thing I would say is always be wary when a boomer says, "Oh, things used to be better in my day. Things were better because of X," because generally it's not true, and I will tell you why. So I think the first thing is that, there were blockbusters that were released this year, and the ones that weren't were pushed back due to COVID for budgeting reasons, not for budgeting reasons, but for box office reasons. So it's not that Hollywood isn't making those movies anymore. Those movies are here to stay. It's that there were practical reasons for the delay in the release. I'm really looking forward to Dune, for instance, which has a stacked cast. It's a sci-fi movie that's coming out next fall, I think.
Yep.
Really excited for that. So I don't think that's quite true. And the second thing I would say is that even King Kong and Jurassic Park, for that matter, is a very thinly veiled capitalist critique, right? The monsters in the movie create a lot of the suspense, a lot of like the horror element of the movies, but the bad guys of the movies are these soulless suits who exploit this ecosystem at the risk of the health of the animals as well as the people back home for their own profit. So the binary of, entertaining movies and real life movies, I don't think really exists because even King Kong was inspired by, no, we shouldn't do that. This is the kind of havoc you wreak when you value profit that
But
much.
let me throw you this bone. Last year, I was hampering Alyssa Wilkinson about how in the world did the Avengers Endgame not at least get nominated by the Academy Awards? It was a global success, or at least for the best film score. When you hear that noise, you
Mm.
know instantly every toddler, infant, teen, adult, baby boomer, they all know that iconic film score. So how is that not at least recognized at the Oscars?
I don't I don't know. It's like so weird to me that I'm making the argument that the Oscars are meant for the little guy, but they are. And if you win hundreds of millions of dollars globally, I don't think you then need an Oscar. I think you've
But
proven
really,
your
is
worth
that
already.
really though fair to say though? I mean, when you think about it, I mean, it's supposed to be a show for everybody. That's why Parasite broke the show. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? And so when you only limit it to feel good stories, is that really being inclusive for all filmmakers out there who like action films?
I don't know. Here's the thing. Do people care that it wins an Oscar? Beyond you.
Well, I
I
guess that's what
really
I was
care as
saying
well.
earlier. It's like, is Gen Z and millennials going to dismantle award shows? Because it seems like there's more pushback. I mean, we see it with the Tony Awards, for example, with
Mm,
Broadway. I mean, even Seth Gordon can't rally up the troops. So, I think I have a reason for this. And this is why I want to bring this
okay.
up with you, Betsy, because back in February, our CCS contributor and Fox film critic, Alyssa Wilkinson, we discussed whether the Golden Globes is a precursor to the Academy Awards. And we discussed the bombshell story that the LA Times dropped this year, which indicated that the Golden Globes is a secretive body of about 90 people who don't publish their membership roster, while the Oscars group numbers close to 10,000, which might sound incredible because it's made up exclusively of people who are currently or formerly worked in some aspect of the entertainment industry. But we're going to show you an infographic here from the LA Times because this is quite startling. Because according to the LA Times, less than 2% of the Oscar voters are millennials. And
Mm,
who knows if Gen Z is even involved. And 94% are white, with 77% mostly male, and with about roughly 64% of Oscar voters with zero nominations and wins. So, Betsy, millennials and Gen Z outnumber baby boomers.
mhm.
How is this an exclusive and diverse Oscar voting panel?
It's not. It's not at all. And I think it's important to realize that film and television are really hierarchical industries. I think things in entertainment are changing with social media and a lot of influencers obviously being extremely young. But it's also the risk averse side of the industry as well. It's the reason why we continue throwing money at Clint Eastwood no matter how old he gets because he has a proven audience and we like
Yeah.
to do things that are proven. So you
Just like
know,
how people throw money at the Triller event for the Jake Pauls. We all
yeah, there
might
you
not
go.
like them, but you still throw money at people that you hate online.
Yeah, so I think that does create an environment that's really hostile to younger people when they don't have any credits to their name, even if they are really talented, they have new ideas.
But you know what? Like, I can't stand about my own generation. It's like we always hamper. No, I'm being serious, and I
Okay.
guess I guess I could throw this at Gen Z too because they sometimes fall in this trap.
Mm,
They're We only consider race and gender for everything when it comes to diversity talks,
mhm,
okay? But we never consider the age. Why
mm,
not? I mean, especially when we just showed you that infographic there. It's like 60 plus people voting on the films that they think represent the whole world, which they don't even show on a world population scale. So, how is
mhm.
that being inclusive and diverse of a voter panel?
It's, it's definitely not. I feel like that's all I can say. Um,
What would you like to see happen?
uh, the Academy Awards are an institution and change is so slow. I feel like
I feel like Gen Z critics need to start their own awards show so that
yeah,
we can leave the traditional format and do something that's what's good. But
you
I
know,
got yeah, yeah, go on. Go for it.
well, have you watched I didn't watch it I think it was last night. Do you watch the film Independent Spirit Awards?
I did not follow up on it, but what happened?
Um, I don't know. Again, I'm being a terrible film critic here, but it's a fun show. And I don't know if it is a younger audience that is voting, but it certainly feels like it because their hosts are always so incredibly funny. Their sketches are so funny. They don't seem to have the same problem with not nominating people who deserve it.
Yeah,
And so, and I think it's also just looser. It's like the night before the Oscars, so like people don't feel like the stakes are as high. But I love the
gotcha.
vibe. And I do think that that is more representative, of like our spirit as Gen Zers. So that is, I feel like, an award show that does a good job.
Probably, yeah, unlike, the MTV Movie Awards where they'll go, "We broke down the gender rule," and then the first award, best first kiss. It's like,
Well,
really?
do you think, I know right now the Oscars are going to have no host once again.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to be the trend then? Because I know I read an article, Oscars are like, no, 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 we're going to bring back a host. We are, but no host is really doing the job. It's kind of sad where you're like, that was a horrible monologue. Thanks for
Yeah.
like just saying what a good person you are and how bad Hollywood is as Hollywood pays you. Do you
Right.
think they're going to bring back any kind of host or is that it?
Um, I think they're trying to make the show shorter just because it's so insufferably long. And so in the interest of, being entertaining and less painful, I feel like no host is a better way to go. But look, I loved Aubrey Plaza hosting the Independent Spirit Awards. I loved it when Kate McKinnon and Kumail Nanjiani co-hosted. So
Wow.
like it can be fun and experimental. I just don't think they're willing to go there. I think they tend to like hire establishment people in the Oscars. So
Yeah, I think Ricky Jarvis was like one of my faves.
Jarvis,
okay.
Gervais. That's hilarious. I know we only got a couple minutes with you. I know we can't really tackle this topic in length, but I still wanted to welcome this with you. A while back in October of 2020, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar kind of stirred the pot a little bit when he clapped back at Lulu Wang, director. She had a little Twitter bout with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We're gonna kind of show you the images to kind of give the listeners context, and even Betsy included. But the tweet reads as followed: "The belief that anybody can tell any story they want is why we have monuments of certain heroes in this country and not others. This is about race. It's about power and control. The person who talks the most and the loudest should not be the only voice we hear. In case it's not clear, I'm talking about Ron Howard and Hollywood, but I'm also talking about so much more. This isn't censorship. It's the opposite of censorship, excuse me. So Betsy, do you think Lulu Wang has any ground to stand on by asserting that only a Chinese director can tell pianist Wang Wang's story? It sounds like more and more we want more true vision on screen.
So you mean Lang Lang?
I thought it was Wang Wang. Did I say it? Am I
It's
butchering it?
Millennial.
Wow. Where's my producer in my ear? What the hell? That's good.
No, no, you're
Thank
good.
you, Betsy.
So I don't actually think she's saying only Chinese people can tell his story. I think she's saying to tell his story, you have to have a certain amount of knowledge and experience and, cultural humility. Does Ron Howard have that kind of ability? I'm not sure. I think, it's not even only restricted to race. A
Yeah.
lot of sort of criticism of Hillbilly Elegy was that he didn't treat those subjects with a lot of respect. It felt like it was condescending. So it's a
Mm.
question of, whether you can really relate to the subjects in that way, not as much a question of your race. Can Ron Howard do that? I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see what's up. But Elizabeth Betsy Kim, you are phenomenal. You are the co-founder of Gen Z Critics. I hope to have you on another time because I'd love to expound on the True Vision talk. But I just want to let the listeners know, where can they find you on social media, Betsy?
Yeah, so at Gen Z Critics, GENZ Critics, please go to our website to read the reviews of young film critics and filmmakers.
That's right.
We want to create a platform for young people, so please champion their work. And thank you so much for having me, you guys.
Of
It's
course.
so nice to
Of
meet you.
course. We love you, fam. And hopefully we get you back on the show real time soon.